We all live in a gagistocracy, a gagistocracy, a gagistocracy.
Do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Hello, you wonderful people. How you doing? I hope you're having a pretty good sort of a Thursday. Been bloody hot around here. I hope you've survived okay in your part of the world, either in air conditioning or using some of the old-fashioned methods. Have you tried the cloth around the neck kind of thing? That really works, and you can actually buy in some of the outdoor stores. I've got one, a cloth that retains water, if you like. You throw it in the freezer. It doesn't get so hard that it's stiff, but put that around your neck, tie it around your neck. Marvelous way of keeping cold or keeping cool on really hot days, because cools the blood coming into and out of the brain, and I think it does good things for you. There's my little tip for the heat. If you can do it, do it. Just want to say hello to a few people who poked their heads up early. Debs was first in the house tonight. And Bulls Nuts, anyone home? No one was at that time, clearly. Sorry, mate, I would have replied, but I didn't see it until some time later. The lovely Aussie Sue, God love you. I hope you are doing well. And, of course, she always has a message from the island for us. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, folks. We need it. Share the show, too. Last night's show has spiked a lot of interest in people. A lot of questions, a lot more questions seem to have been raised. And, you can know how to get a hold of Cass if that's what you need to do. You can email, fire your questions through, or better still, it's probably better to schedule one of those free 15-minute appointments with her and get it out of the way that way. But also want to congratulate Doris, because it was the first time Doris has really been on in sort of the hostish kind of capacity. And I've got to say, I think she did a great job. Her questions were really, really well thought out. And it's an area that Doris has a great deal of interest in, obviously, given what she's been through. And she's dealt with trusts in the past and all that. So it was a very, very well-received show. So share it around, folks. Some of your friends might get a bit of value out of that. And God knows there's always new financial bits of news coming out. So some of that could be coming out sooner rather than later, with talk of America going to war this weekend. We'll talk about that a little later on. Gomez, now I think I saw something from you. You're a sick person. I saw a sign that said, "Watch for children." And I thought, that sounds like a fair trade. Very good. Very, very good indeed. Hi, Diane. Yes, blessings to all and sundry. Absolutely. If you've got any questions, folks, Vince won't be in tonight, so he's doing a My Place meeting in Manham. So you'll just have to rely on me potentially swinging past and seeing them. I did see something mentioned earlier from Sandy, God love you, darling, about the new Donkey Sanctuary support vehicle. Is that what I should call it? Maybe I shouldn't call it the support vehicle. Rescue vehicle might be the best way of describing it, because that's what it's used for, well, just about everything that it does. But yes, donations raised through this show and through other, because the Sanctuary's been raising money through its own ways of doing this too. Who knew that these sorts of things could be so expensive? But ta-da, there is a look at the brand new Donkey Sanctuary Swish-O float. Now, Swish-O is the word. I'm going to show you inside, but I'm doing the inside from the camera that is located inside the Swish-O donkey float. And that camera feeds to a screen or the mobile phone in the front of the car, which Sandy and Baz can keep an eye on so that they can make sure the animals are still safe on their feet, doing all the things that they need to do. Beautiful, beautiful float as far as floats go. I'm still failing to see where the cost. I mean, there's a quarter of a house in this. Well, maybe not quite that much, but anyway, they're safe, and that is the main thing. And that thing looks sturdy, solid, and ready to go for 20 or 30 years, maybe. So the Donkey Sanctuary's new float hath arrived, and the donkeys seem quite happy to be involved with it too, which is even better. So I know Sandy wants to thank everybody who did donate either through here or to the GoFundMe page, and the other ways the Sanctuary was raising money. So thanks, many thanks to everybody who contributed to getting a fabulous result, making sure that the animals can now be safely transported when they're being rescued from what has been a hellish life to date. That's about the only way that Sandy and Baz unfortunately come into contact with these animals, if they've been abused or if they've been abandoned, and yeah, they've had a bit of a hard life generally. So so good to see that new float, and of course the news that you may have heard earlier this week. Sandy shared with us that 18 of the donkeys are going to be performing, and I say that with inverted commas, in the main arena at the Ekka. No, not the Ekka. What's the Sydney show called? The Royal Easter Show. So, yeah, 18 of them are going to be involved in a show there. I guess it has something, a bit of a cowboy show. They'll be rounding them up or doing something along those lines. But if you happen to be going to the Sydney show over Easter, and you happen to be going during the evening when this show will be on, it's one of the evening entertainments that happen out on the main arena, we would love you to take a bit of video, if you could, show the donkeys up close and personal, and we'll play a bit of it here. Sandy and Baz, unfortunately, won't be able to go to it. They've got a family event up north they have to be at. So what happens with this is there is a company that's contracted in to supply entertainment and various different things. And this is the same company that put on the Simpsons donkey thing a couple of years ago, which some of you may have seen in Caloundra, when they did a pre-show sort of show, if you like, there. And then they did, it was again the Royal Easter Show in Sydney. They didn't do the Ekka for some reason. So anyway, they're back at the Sydney show this year, and we would love people to take as many photos of those donkeys doing their thing at the show as humanly possible, and videos, and send them into us. And if you actually want to do it in a serious way for us, then please reach out, carl@vofhq.com. I'll put you in touch with Sandy, and we will get you a ticket. It'll be you, not your whole family. It'll be a ticket that'll get you backstage, if you like, and it will allow you to get some nice photos of the donkeys or nice video and be there up close and personal when they run out, maybe. Just something that makes nice video. And I know Sandy and Baz would be eternally grateful for that. So if you can help, please reach out, carl@vofhq.com, and I will put you in touch with the gorgeous Sandy and Baz. Okay, it's been a fairly interesting day. You know, if you follow me on Facebook, I'm pretty vocal about Ben Roberts-Smith and the way that Ben Roberts-Smith has been treated. I'm disgusted that a hero of his stature has been hung out to dry. And I have been made aware of events that probably are not publicly known. They are forming part of a report that was made into all of this, but that report has been so heavily redacted so as to supply absolutely no real information whatsoever. We had to wait until the courts decided, yeah, you can hear about this. And I'm talking about this piece of filth, Nick McKenzie. Now, Nick McKenzie was a Channel 9 reporter, works for Fairfax. In fact, he likes to refer to himself as Fairfax. He threatens people. I am Fairfax. Media egos, folks. Who knew? Anyway, that piece of shit decided that he needed to do a bit of a hatchet story. The reasons behind that I can't really go into right now, but oh God, I want to. And there are certain extraneous things that are putting pressure on the truth about what has happened here, stopping them from coming out. I know what they are, and I understand and know the reasons why some people might not like the truth to come out, but I do not understand why we would denigrate a soldier of the stature of this man, Ben Roberts-Smith, who fought without fear or favor for his nation. And I urge you, as I have many times before, go and read the after-action report that formed the basis for why he was given the VC. It is startling reading. And now compare that human being there to this man who has been walking out of court, and I believe he is half the size of that now. And now clearly he's not been out, doing the normal training that the SAS would have him doing, but he has shrunk in size, and that in part will be because of the pain and suffering that he has been put through by this piece of shit, Nick McKenzie. Now, Nick McKenzie and his mates at Channel 9 were going to court, taking Ben Roberts-Smith to court, or being taken to court by Ben Roberts-Smith, I beg your pardon, for defamation, amongst other things. And Ben lost. He also, in the lead up 1 week before his court case, he lost one of his witnesses who all of a sudden wouldn't testify. And today we found out why. That witness was someone that this McKenzie piece of filth had been talking to, and who, it appears, may or may not have been Ben's girlfriend or the mistress at the time. So she had clearly had some information that would have been rather useful to them. But McKenzie was also talking to Ben Roberts-Smith's wife and one of her girlfriends, a very close friend, and admits in a recorded telephone call that the mistress recorded that they were getting information on, being fed all the information on Ben's case and his planned defenses and his strategies for the case. And they were being fed to those women who were then feeding them to Nick McKenzie, who was feeding them to the Channel 9 lawyers. Now, there's all sorts of wrong with that, and McKenzie knows it, because in that recording he says, "I've sacrificed my ethics," or words to that effect. If the lawyers, the two lawyers he quotes, Dean and Peter, knew what I'd said here, he'd be in all sorts of shit, and he would be in all sorts of shit, hung out to dry. But there's no point from the network's perspective of hanging him out to dry, because the network is still liable. So they keep him close, and I don't know that he's doing too much for them these days, but they'll be keeping him close. So what did these people do? They paid $700,000 to the ex, or the mistress, the ex-mistress, whatever it was, not to testify. They asked her, and, well, the woman claims she had to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Channel 7 say it was not anything like, so I beg your pardon, Channel 9 say it wasn't an NDA. She could have spoken in the court if she'd have wanted to, but there is some to and froing about all of that, and that could just be a lot of words being thrown out by the Channel 9 PR department to make themselves not look quite the criminals that they are at the moment. This is how mainstream media works, and they do not, and have not for many years, employed honourable people, in my estimation. I'm not saying there aren't honourable people working in the media, in the mainstream media. I'm sure there are. But there aren't too many old school honourable people left in there. Been well cleaned out, and it's been by design. So what's going to happen now? Well, this new information that has come to light today, because a court said to Channel 9, no, we are not going to suppress the fact that you paid a witness $700,000 and then put them under an NDA for 50 years. That's longer than cabinet papers are kept, secret. And on that point, Jeff Kennett's Victorian cabinet papers are coming up for release soon. They'll show some interesting things. So interesting times ahead with Ben Roberts-Smith. Now that this has been shown, and he has been knocked back from a direct High Court appeal, all avenues of appeal have been lost to Ben. And this piece of information and the evidence that this lady could have brought to bear for Ben could change the case. I would say changes the case significantly. Now, he's been through the federal court and the appeals process there. There isn't another leg for him to stand on. They denied him appeal access to the High Court. Now, this is a whole heap, $700,000 worth of new information. And he just might get another look now, and the High Court might be where he has to go. But I don't think they could knock him back if he went there. I guess he's got to go through the federal court to get to the. I don't know. It's going to be messy. There are better legal brains on that for me, but all power to Ben, and get these bastards, mate. Expose the filth for what they are, and I can't wait until I can tell the story. This story extends from Vietnam to Somalia to Western Australia, the East Coast, Afghanistan, and Iraq. It extends to relationships built with commanding officers who've gone on to much bigger and better things. And you will not be at all surprised to find out one of those commanding officers' names when I tell it to you one day. And why are they doing this? Well, they're trying to protect the name of a fallen soldier, a fallen hero, as they would have it. And I have no reason to doubt that this bloke isn't a hero. I also have no reason to doubt that he was involved in a significant way in every one of the issues that Ben Roberts-Smith has been laboured with. And there is a certain reluctance within military to bring it up, to talk about it, and to set things right, because it may leave a bad taste in the mouths of the family of that fallen soldier. And to them I say, well, I'm sorry about that. But what's happening to Ben Roberts-Smith is wrong, must stop. And I think Pauline Hanson is one of his supporters. Now, I'm just having a bit of a glance at something that's popped up in the news, the mainstream news tonight. And that is that One Nation is now leading Victoria in the polls coming up to the next election. Now, this is an Oz poll that was released late today. One Nation ahead, clearly ahead of the ALP and the Liberal National Party and the Greens, although how the Greens have still got, well, I suppose, inner city Melbourne, hey? Anyway, and the other is a 13%. So One Nation already have huge amounts of support well before the Victorian elections, which are due in November this year. Before November, the litmus test will be South Australia. And those elections are coming up a little later this month. And to that end, I beg your pardon, a little later next month, March. To that end, One Nation are heading to Adelaide I guess. Tomorrow night, if you're a bit of a pool player or a snooker player, go and have a chat with Malcolm Roberts. The good senator is going to be at the Luna Bar in Hindley Street in Adelaide from about 8:30. And then I believe there is another do happening on Saturday night. It's an invite-only thing, so you're probably not going to get to that. But they are doing a lot of on-the-ground work in South Australia, from what I hear. Corey Bernardi and the team are very active in their own electorates. Corey Bernardi, I think, is a big name to get behind all of the One Nation candidates in the South Australian election, and I guess he'll be doing his best to do as much for them as he can, but he still has to get himself elected. So, pardon me, watch this space. I think it's going to be a very tight election. And Vince, just between you, me, and the gatepost, our very own Vince will be heading off to this event on Saturday, we hope, where he'll be able to get a few interviews with some of the main players, both in South Australia and nationally. So people will be accusing him of saying, oh, God, Carl, you're supporting One Nation. If you haven't found out or figured out yet the reasons that we are doing this, it's because for the first time in my living memory, and probably yours, we actually have a popular revolt politically. Do I believe it's going to make much difference? God, I want to believe it does. But I have my doubts. However, I don't see any reason to push myself into the tidal wave that's coming my way and drown. I see no reason not to support this tidal wave of support and, with a bit of luck, get One Nation elected in states, territories, and federally. Because then those of you who've decided to come back to voting, like me, and that could change. We've got 2 years before all this happens, right? But those of you who decide to come back could be the difference between securing a future for this country with people who actually think about the people in it and our heritage, what we want for our future, and leaving it open to these uni-party corporations who are just going to bleed us dry every way they can. Now, do I believe that One Nation is going to change all that? I have my reservations. I don't know that they can. But every normie out there, and all of you who hate Darren Bergworth for suggesting that, you can't go voting, well, this is the opportunity to put up or shut up. This is the opportunity to put our support behind what is clearly a huge tidal wave of support that isn't driven by us, the tinfoil hat wearers. Our group's around there, and there are members of it certainly who are jumping into it for sure. But that wave isn't driven by us. That wave is driven by all the normies out there who see them, who still haven't come to the enlightened fact that we don't believe that voting changes anything. They still believe it does. So let's go with it. Let's use the principle used by anybody in martial arts, but especially in judo, of using your opponent's momentum against them. We don't need to stand in front of the tidal wave of One Nation support and get smashed against the rocks screaming, oh, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. It's all illegal. Because it won't matter. We'll just get smashed against the rocks and not heard by anybody. However, if we're riding that tidal wave and trying to get as many people on it, get as much weight behind it as we can to make real difference, to give them the power to make real difference for the people. For the people. I'll support that every day of the week. And that puts the pressure back on the party that gets that level of support, and at the moment it appears to be One Nation, to perform for the people. And if after 4 years 2 years, 3 years, that it's all failed, as Darren and many others would suggest to you that it will, well then, when that tidal wave of support has died down and the flotsam and jetsam and the rubble starts to get sucked back out and the Liberal Party come in on the back tide, that's when we stand up and say, no, you had your go. Now we need to do something very different. And at that time, there'll be a whole nation full of normies who will be just as disillusioned by the voting process when they discover, if it turns out to be that way, that it doesn't matter who you vote in, nothing changes. So for those of you that criticize me for talking about one nation, I have no desire to be smashed against the rocks by the tidal wave of support, and I would be much happier to be riding and pushing and helping grow that tidal wave, because I want it to succeed. I do. I don't really care what party is leading it. I want that tidal wave of support, of people, of knowledge, overrunning, overwashing the political uni-parties of today. And then, with a very powerful clean slate for them to work with, let's see what they can do. And I know, oh, it's another 4 years. Well, look, we were going to be, all as rich as 25 lords 4 years ago now, was it? Money was going to miraculously appear from somewhere into all our bank accounts. All the taxes that we've paid in our life were going to be returned. And that was all happening 5 years ago. What's the timeline, folks? Why does it matter? It only matters if you're doing nothing, right? Well, at least I think it only matters if you're doing nothing. Get out and do something. And we're hamstrung. We are at a point where you listen to one corner of the argument, and there are many corners. You listen to one corner of the argument, they say, oh, we're going to do this constitutionally. It'll be beautiful. There'll be no bloodshed. It'll be, everybody will lay down their arms. They'll all come to the party together, and we'll all come together with a new constitution and be a happy family. Nope. That's not working out the way that those blokes had hoped. Then there's another corner that says, bugger them all! Tear the walls down! Drag them out! Well, we know how that's going to go, don't we? Why do we know it's going to go the way we know it's going to go? Because we don't have the numbers. Watch the end of this show tonight, okay? When the ant says, we can't let one ant stand up because they'll all stand up. Well, so far, we've got a merry band of 27. So when the big ant flips open the little bean pod, we get a little bit of a rush out there and not too much happens. Because we don't have enough people loaded in the magazine to make it happen yet. We like to think we do, but we're not there yet. That number needs to increase by a few more million, I believe. Particularly if the, ranting and raving, haul them out of Parliament, string them up, bloody cohort gets a grasp. Because, I've got to say, I'd find that hard to argue with in a lot of cases. But I also am not a person who will tar them all with the same brush. They all have to go through a process. And some will be found guilty, I'm sure, most. But I also believe that there are some in that place who are doing the right thing. Don't think they get much of a voice. I don't think they're ever heard. I think they sit in backbenches and are programmed in the backbenches, watched very closely to see whether or not they can be trusted. And for those, they're turfed out. Or they're used as useful idiots. That's the politics we have today. And I hope One Nations is different. I'm not sure it is. I know nothing about it. But at the moment, they're the only ones that are going to give we the people a chance. All right? If this was Gerard Rennick's People First Party, I'd be saying exactly the same thing. If this was Bob Katter's party, I'd be saying exactly the same thing. Get on board. If you're a disillusioned voter, if you are even, well, better than a disillusioned voter, if you are able to think logically and haven't been so deeply programmed by your parents to vote one way or the other, Labor or Liberal, there is no difference. And I heard a lady say exactly that today in an interview in Albury about what will be the largest by-election this nation has seen in many years. Some people just, I've always voted Liberal. Why on earth would you continue? I've always let him punch me in the face. Because that's what you're saying. Oh, yeah. No, it's okay. I'm okay with being abused. I've always voted to be abused. I've always voted to be punched in the face by those I elect to represent me. That's what you're saying to these people. About time we stopped saying that sort of shit and started doing other things. But we need more people on our side. Well, Pauline Hanson's managed to attract a great deal of interest, more than we've been able to attract in the last 5 years, can I be honest and say? So that indicates to me that she's got a pretty good grasp on where the audience is. She's saying the right things, which appear also to be a lot of what we've been saying. We're aligned. The processes might be a bit different, but largely the policies are aligned in many ways. So I'm all for giving that tsunami of support all the help I can get. All right, I'm willing to come out of retirement, voting-wise, and put my name down to push that. Because I want them to make change. I want them to be given the chance to prove they can and will make that change. I desperately want them to do that. I don't want them to fail. Because if they fail, well, you know what comes after that, don't you? So keep an eye out. Watch this space. Speaking of spaces to be watched, you might have seen this couple. You may not have seen them in a few years, but there is a lot of talk about JFK Jr. and his lovely wife, Caroline, being seen in various parts. Now, these images are able to be searched, and given AI and associated other things, you can check out the likelihood of them being an AI creation or not. This one has been checked out rather solidly. I'm not familiar with Site Engine. I did try and log into it, but you've got to have a paid account. But I'll go and do it myself again later and try it on something else that I use and just see what it comes up. But it's saying the image is likely human generated, meaning it is not an AI construct. I don't know that it says that's actually a photo. They're the things you need to be aware of. Is it really a photo when it says, well, it's likely a human generated creation? Well, did I generate it by going click, or did I generate it by Photoshop? Something that isn't Photoshopped is this bloke. You remember him? His name was Khaloof, Shareem Khaloof. And he decided he'd leave Australia to go and fight for the Caliphate. And he wound up in Syria, where he fought long, fought hard, fought strong, became a leader in the part of Rafah that he was living in, became an ISIS leader. He was a bully, somebody who had guns and liked to go out and wave them at people, particularly anybody that happened to live near him, next door neighbours and that kind of thing. And you can see, with those eyes, just how marvellous a neighbour he would be. But turns out, like most of these types, they're able to breed and breed rapidly. He had 5 children. Here's one of them. That's a pretty reasonable little submachine gun the kid's hanging onto there, doing nicely. He's got another couple of kids here. 2 boys beside him on this shot, if the bloody machine ever catches up to me. The one in the middle there, and his left hand's holding a pistol. And these kids, along with dear old dad, and I'm assuming it was those 2 children and this bloke, wound up being the target or being targeted. That's right. This fella's kid had the head of, they were beheading people. And he had his boy holding up the head of someone that he had beheaded. There are other pictures of him, videos of him saying how he's going to teach the boy how to cut somebody's head off and all sorts of horrible things. Anyway, this bloke wound up having 5 children. And I'm not sure if one of the ISIS brides, well, I am sure, one of the ISIS brides that left Australia to go over there to be with him in the Caliphate is now back in Australia. Well, she was coming back to Australia. She died in 2015. He died in 2017, along with 2 of the children. That means that there are 3 children still unaccounted for. Now, it's my understanding that those 3 children were brought back into Australia in 2019, and haven't heard too much or anything about them ever since. Now we find there are 34 individuals, and one of those has been banned, a female. So call it 33 less kids. I don't know how many kids that female who's banned had. She won't be allowed to bring them in with her either. So let's say, call it 30, coming to Australia. How are they getting to Australia? Well, they'll be flying on a toll private jet that has been chartered for this purpose. That's how they've done it always, the Muslim community. The toll organisation works behind the scenes to give them access through ports and airports, and helps facilitate travel from one area to another. Toll are involved in the aid process that Australia sends out around the world. So they've got aircraft that deliver aid packages, and I dare say they can put seats in them and bring little packages back to us. So I would expect them to be on a toll flight that is not a listed flight. So you won't be able to put it on Flight Tracker, although there are ways of seeing them. At any rate, the big question now appears to be the lies that are being told by the Labor Party in regards to how these 34 people got passports. When you're in a camp in Syria, a refugee camp in Syria, a lawless refugee camp in Syria, there is no way for you to provide all the documentation that you are required to provide to get your passport. The Albanese government say, we haven't broken any laws. We have to give every Australian person a passport. Well, the fact of the matter is they don't have to give every Australian a passport. Not every Australian has a right to a passport. They take passports off Australians all the friggin' time in the courts. So you don't necessarily have a right to it. And it's mealy-mouthed words that these friggin' Labor liars feel that we're so stupid we can't see. And then they can't even transmit those lies between each other so they can tell a consistent lie. Oh, no. Now, that'd be too much like the Liberal Party. Instead, we get Tony Burke, who holds quiet little meetings in his office. Turns out the doctor who is running this repatriation service, it seems, out of his Muslim enclave in Sydney, also happens to be one of Tony Burke's best mates and the head of a charity re-election committee for the Muslims in Tony Burke's area. He's responsible for getting Tony Burke re-elected. And what's Tony Burke doing? Well, he's having private meetings with, groups interested in bringing these people back. And then he's kicking the public servant out of the room who's meant to be taking notes on these meetings because he wants to have a private word with these people. We don't know what was said there, but now we know that somehow 34 passports minted right here in Australia, somehow made it out of Australia and were given to these people. All right, I understand that's not necessarily too hard to believe. What is hard to believe is how they were able to prove who these 34 people were with no birth certificates, no IDs. They would have had everything taken off them when they got, like these women, when they left Australia and went over there, they would have had everything taken from them. They would have been stripped of just about everything, and certainly all their paperwork. And how long have they been in the camp? God knows how long, but they'd have nothing. So how do you ID? DNA? So we've had to send people over there. The government said they didn't assist. So maybe that's what this doctor did. Maybe he went over and jabbed everybody and paid for the DNA tests himself without government support. Maybe. Okay. Who made that bloke a private repatriator? Who gave him the ability to set up this country? Well, it's a shell game, I guess. Questions need to be asked of that bloke as soon as he gets back into the country, sooner rather than later. And I'm pretty confident he'll be back in the country very soon. So we hope and pray that real questions get asked of him. I don't know that the Senate estimates or anybody can drag him in like they do at the US Congress and make people testify. I don't know that we have that ability, although they did do it to Kerry Packer. They can offer an invitation. I don't think they can make you testify, as that strange woman that runs our E-Safety Commission office is finding out or demonstrating for us. She's an American citizen and an Australian citizen. She's been called before Congress. She's hiding behind her Australian passport so that she doesn't have to attend that. The Americans are saying, hang on a minute, Miss America, you are coming. So watch that space too. I believe there's going to be something moving on that. There is a lot of interesting things happening in America this year. It's 250 years since America was made America. How exciting. Well, that got me thinking. So I had a chat with ChatGPT and I said, how many years in the 250 years of US history has America not been at war? So you can see there's a legend. Everything in red is years at war. Everything in green is years at peace. So let's have a look, shall we, at the first. In the 18th century, there was a brief peace from 1776 to 1800. Just a brief one. In the 19th century, there was only a very short peace, somewhere between 1808 and 1812, thereabouts, and then things changed. And then in the 20th century, just a very, very short little piece. And judging by where that is sort of in the middle of the timeline there, I'm going to say that's somewhere between Korea and Vietnam, where America was not involved in a conflict of some sort. And then we get to the 20th century. So all up, there's been less than 20 years where America has been at peace in a history of 250 years. I wonder if that's going to help people now start to understand how the industrial war machine drives the evil behind our planet. They thrive on the war. They make so much money out of the war. And they're about to start another one if the pizza clock is anything to go by. So this popped out this afternoon. It is a list of all the pizza stores in Washington, D.C. that are around the Pentagon, the CIA, and the White House. Now, for many years, the Domino's guy, who used to have the monopoly, basically, of pizza places in those areas, noticed that just prior to a large military action, the pizza intake at the White House, the Pentagon, and the CIA all went up. Well, that's a shot from less than 12 hours ago for the amount of pizza it might have been 24 hours ago, the amount of pizza being ordered across various outlets in Washington, D.C. Will be breaking out. That's Doris ringing me. How rude is she? Doesn't even look at the show. Just says, "Oh no, I'll ring Carl." At any rate, what was I talking about? I've forgotten. The pizza clocks. So, war this weekend is the prediction. The US attacking Iran. I guess we will just have to wait and see. I got a couple of other little weird ones for you. Something here from the wonderful Princess Diana. She had a friend, Christine Fitzgerald, who has made some quotes in the past, and these are now being brought up again. She says that Diana's nickname for the Windsors was the reptiles or the lizards, and that she would say to Christine, her girlfriend, in all seriousness, they're not human. There's a lot of material available around Diana's death and Diana's lizard conversations. She had more than one. I believe she had one with Hewitt as well, which was the guy protecting her at the time. Is that how you say it? At any rate, if you listen to Q, you could find a whole heap of interesting things coming out about Diana soon too. We shall wait and see. I saw this somewhere, Facebook or wherever it was, from Andrew Kaufman, MD. The public release of information about abuse without any real action functions as a kind of humiliation ritual. Truth is acknowledged, placed in plain sight, and then left unresolved. We see it in the Epstein files. We see it in the abuse of power, the misuses of the public funds, the admissions of harm with the vaccines. The facts are no longer hidden, and yet no one is held to account. This isn't accidental. Admit wrongdoing, take no action. Let outrage rise, let confusion spread. Let people become exhausted, disillusioned, and eventually apathetic. A system does not need your obedience if it can secure your inaction. How true. I think it's a wonderfully well-written piece, something well worth having a bit more of a think about. You want to screenshot that? Here. In 3, 2, 1, gone. Here's an Epstein email that Alex Jones is pushing out. It was confirmed he's growing Angel's Trumpet, a plant that produces the drug scopolamine. It's used in MKUltra mind control experiments. It takes effect immediately, turning victims into zombies. It removes free will. It wipes memories and can even kill victims. It looks like that. Now, we apparently grow these in Queensland. I'm not completely sure, but it says Queensland is almost one of the exclusive places it can. Anyway, stop ringing me, girls. I can't talk to you. So he's apparently growing this shit at some point out on Epstein's Island. Now, there are a number of emails that allude to the fact he certainly knows what it is. Apparently growing in Colombia. He's being advised of it. And in another email, he's asking his one of his island managers to ask Chris, the gardener, how his trumpet plants are going. So could it be that I haven't done any investigation into that scopolamine or whatever it is, but I will. I'll have a bit of a dig into it and see what sort of effects it has. But I have no reason to doubt that toxic is certainly one of the effects they're going to have. And I think I have just about come to a conclusion. Oh, no, I've got a little fuzzy UFO to show you. Now, don't we all love little fuzzy UFOs? Keep an eye on this one. It happens, well, keep an eye. So I don't know exactly where this came from. Europe, somewhere. And then you get a sort of a slow-mo version here as it zooms in. And you can see now why I say it's fuzzy. There looks to be some sort of a trail, cloud, plasma, I don't know, water vapor. But then something travels up, as you can see. Also looks like there's a door into that mountain there on the left-hand side. Whatever this is gets whatever that was inside it, and then, ting, she gone. Make out of that what you will. And on that note, and probably a little earlier, I'm going to leave you with one final video that I'm sure you will all be very aware of and understand completely when I say not all dickheads are on the roads. Some of those dickheads are on the footpath delivering your mail.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!